Good morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering current events on this year, Thursday morning, Rise and Shine. And this morning here, we're looking at the topic, dangers of GMO, amalgamation, and separately, false assumption on certain groups. So welcome again. Hopefully it'll bless and night rest and you're ready to take on today and take some opportunities that come your way. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of your word, for the blessings, dear Lord, of the guidance that you give us. Pray that you may be with us, dear Lord, as we contemplate these things for our life and salvation. Bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking here at a topic, dangers of genetically modified organism and amalgamation, just amalgamation, and then false assumption on certain groups. So this is what we're looking at here. And I'm going to start off with the false assumption on certain groups. It covers so much in what we call current events, and then after that I'll go to my main articles. So I have two articles to share on GMO, some updates of what's going on, and then one I'm going to talk about this doctor that just got charged with the crime of killing, I think, 25 patients, something like that. And so wanted to share that these two things with you. And the first one is I tend to kind of pause when I share topics like this, dangers of GMO and amalgamation, and then false assumption on certain groups. Now, the reason I pause sometimes to share two double-A topic like that, because often I want to go with the faster one first. And the faster one is the false assumption on certain groups, but it's the one that sometimes, I guess, if some people don't want to hear certain things, it's difficult for them to listen through me talking about topics like this. So I'm going to go straight into this article here, and this is taken from NBCnews.com, and it's entitled, Ohio Doctor Charged with 25 Counts of Murder, Accused of Prescribing Excessive Doses of Painkiller. An Ohio doctor accused of ordering excessive and potentially fatal doses of opiates to dozens of near-death patients is facing multiple counts of murder, prosecutors announced Wednesday. William Hussle voluntarily surrendered to authorities in Columbus and was charged in 25 deaths following a 6-month investigation by the Franklin County Prosecutor Office. The patient death exposed a stunning case of medical oversight and alleged medical malpractice, and called into question how repeated failure potentially involved 30 or more employees could have gone unchecked for so long. I've been a prosecutor for 22 years and have not seen a 25-count indictment during those years, Franklin County Prosecutor Ron O'Brien said at a news conference. Columbus Division of Police Chief Thomas Quinlan added that this breach of a doctor's oath is vile, and that begins the process of holding the accused criminal responsible. Now, I'll pause here a little bit because I want to say here that normally I try not to talk about cases until they're finished. I'm not a prosecutor or anything like that, or a lawyer, so I tend to just leave it as not to talk about it. So although I'm reading this case, I'm not giving per se an opinion on the matter, but as you notice, the chief of police and the prosecutor say they have not seen 25 counts of indictment or anything, any type of crime. So this is significant, but it is significant for me for a different reason. Well, I'll get into it in a little bit. So don't know if he's guilty or not guilty, or really what was going on. Was he really trying to just comfort the patients, or was he trying to kill them? Currently reading here, Hussle is the doctor in question, or being charged, is 43 years old. Was employed with Mount Carmel Health System, one of the largest in central Ohio, from 2015 to 2018, which covered the years of the investigation. He was first suspended in November 21st and then fired 2 weeks later. A motive for why Hustle allegedly ordered such large amounts of fentanyl remains unclear. Officials said many of those who died were older and already seriously ill. This is not a murder case, Hustle attorney Richard Blake told NBC affiliate WCMH. I can assure you, there was never an attempt to euthanize anyone by Dr. Hustle. At no time did he ever have the intent to euthanize anyone. Hustle pleaded not guilty, and his bond was set at $1 million during an arraignment Wednesday afternoon. Officials confirmed that he had already surrendered his passport, and Blake said Hustle was wants to clear his name at a trial. Hustle faced 15 years to life in prison per count if convicted. O'Brien said that the dosage order by the doctor in the 25 deaths could not support any legitimate medical purpose. Although nurses and pharmacists followed Hustle's order, the doctor remained the main focus of the criminal investigation. And I'll pause there because often when these things are going on, it is not just one person that is involved. There's many of the people that are supposed to be gatekeepers, are supposed to blow the whistle, or supposed to bring into question what's happening. And so it tells you something about human beings when we're in situations where we see evil perpetrating and we kind of shut our mouth and watch it and don't open our mouths because we're afraid to be fired or to be questioned or to seem like we're not team players. And this is something that happened over and over again in various different situations. So that's why I'm highlighting it, because it's always fascinating that other doctors, the nurses, the pharmacists, the whole bunch of workers look over the patient record, look at various different things, and didn't raise a highbrow, so to speak, as to what's going on. At least probably majority of them didn't. In a statement following the Hustle's arrest, Mount Carmel Health System said it will continue to implement meaningful changes throughout our system to ensure events like these never happen again. The hospital first revealed details about the case January 14 after Franklin County prosecutor and Columbus police began interviewing dozens of witnesses and reviewing medical records. Prosecutors and police said they were investigating the deaths of at least 29 patients who may have been given large fentanyl dosage to hasten their end. The investigation took several months, and for the sake of time, it is here. I'll jump a little bit. In other cases, patients were given dosage exceeding the 500 micrograms of fentanyl. So I might say here that lawyers said that normally a patient would get normally 50 to 100 micrograms of synthetic opioid, which is the fentanyl. But this doctor was prescribing as much as 2,500 to 2,000 micrograms of fentanyl. As you know, fentanyl is one of these opiates that is similar to what I think killed Prince and some of the people that were famous. So it's taking out a lot of people because it totally sedates you. And so there was various different patients. I'll take two of the patients' example. Amy Plaff, mother Beverly Scherzinger, 63, went to Mount Carmel for a liver biopsy in October 2017 before her health declined and she died within 11 hours after arriving. Plaff lawyer says Hustle ordered 500 micrograms of fentanyl to her. Another example here is I'll take this one here. Hustle's wife Maria Bard is also named in at least one of the suits as administering 800 micrograms of pain medication to a 65-year-old woman who died in 2015. A lawsuit says she's an employee of the hospital. And I read this article in other places where various different people had the same results, where they were ordered. One situation, they were ordered so a very high dosage that I think they had to override the administrative hold on the PIC system, or the system that they dole out the drugs from, because the amount was so high that Basically, the nurse had to go in there and do some override to get the drugs out of it or to be able to administer the drug. So he was ordered very high dosage that would just put the patient alive, put the patient to sleep. So just imagine a patient going into a hospital and within 11 hours of just going in for a biopsy, just to check if they have a problem. Within 11 hours, they're dead. That would be quite shocking for the family. And, one of the families were being interviewed. I think one of the young lady here, for this person, Beverly, she said that when her mom died, she just accepted that it was from the Lord. That the Lord wanted to put her mom to sleep, or I guess take her mom to heaven. But after hearing about this, she was kind of surprised or shocked that this was not the Lord's doing, she says. This was the doctor's doing. So I read this article now for separate from the sad reality of this thing here with the doctor basically acting like Dr. Kevorkian, putting people to so comfortable to sleep that they just die. That it's this trouble that we have as human beings where we can make false assumptions on certain groups and assume that if a person is in a certain group that they're like Teflon, they're smooth as ever and they can't do no wrong, because the doctor pledged to do no wrong. And yet throughout history, people on their own without any motivation, nobody's motivated them and tell them to do wrong, does some quite gross and crazy things. And then people in groups will take orders to do some very heinous and terrible thing, some very aggressively just dark stuff. And that's why it's important not to get into this mindset as a Christian, because we understand that there is a thing called sin and that there's evil in any group, whatever the group is, and that we don't worship, false worship groups because, we say they're special. And you always do diligence, and you always be careful in certain situation. Always ask question, and not go along and say, hey, because it's a doctor, give me, shoot me in my veins, whatever monkeypox or whatever witchcraft that you have, without questioning it. And that, I think, is what has gotten a lot of people in trouble. If the Surgeon General of the United States come out and say something, or in whatever country you are, that something is good, you just accept it and say it's good. If they come out and say, hey, look, something is bad, coconut oil is bad, you just accept it and say, well, they say it's bad. This is the type of mindset that get people in a lot of trouble. And this is where it's sad when you watch citizens who think they're cutting edge, they're above being fooled and being tricked, worship different groups. You can't worship no group. You can't worship pastors, you can't worship police, you can't worship doctors, you can't worship people in politics, you can't worship any group. You can't worship people because they're black, you can't worship people because they're white or they're Asian. And this has been the mistake that people make. Somebody's in power and they're in government, God put them there. Really? And so because God put them there, carte blanche, just write them a blank check, do whatever you want because God is with you. This is type of mindlessness that we have in the society because they don't understand that evil people are sick. And not because per se because 2 or 3 doctors are sick, I mean all doctors are sick, but one has to be careful. And I remember this was very important when the issue came up with police shooting minorities. A lot of people no, they can't do it because police is always good, blue is good. And no, there's cowards. Yeah, I think 2 days ago they charged the police, the basically resource officer for the school, the Parkland school. They charged him with I think 25 counts or 17 counts, I can't remember what it was, for dereliction of duty. They say he should have gone in. He didn't go in. He didn't even try to shoot a shot. Because even though people say, well, the young man was shooting semi-automatic weapon. Yeah, but you don't have to go stand in the middle of the hallway and shoot at him and do a OK Corral shootout. I mean, you could just stand from behind a wall and release a few bullets. I'm sure that would have gotten his attention in a very serious way. And if he come at you, he's going to have to come at you direct. And you could keep just release instruction, even that, and run away. But nothing, distract him, call the animal, wild animal, away from the kids and call him to your attention. But he didn't do anything. And so that was the problem where, somebody come out and say, oh no, police can't do, they're never a bad cop. They never do any wrong. And there's a blowback for that type of thing. Because what you do now, you give a complete group of people, or within all groups, there's monsters. You give that complete group basically a blank check and say, hey, do whatever you guys want to do because you're always good. Same thing when you do it in churches where they say, oh, because pastors are pastors and they're God's anointed. Oh, yeah. Like, these are people who, like, they never read the Bible. Moses gone up to the mountain to collect the 10 commandments, to be given the 10 commandments. And then by the time he come down, they have devil worship going on in Israel, calf worship, Egyptian worship. The same gods that they were running from is the same God that failed to protect the Egyptians. So God wiped out the firstborn of Egypt as a payback for what they did to the killing of the kids when Moses was born. Their gods didn't protect them, but yet the people real quickly they started to worship, and those were Levites, and yet God blessed them because they, when I say Levites, I mean Aaron was a Levi, and yet God gave them the priesthood because I guess they repented and came on God's side. So you got to watch that and be careful of that in your life, that you don't worship, that you respect the jobs that people do and respect the honor that comes with the job, but you don't get so blinded and give like a blank check to groups and say, well, because, I'm black, and if anybody's black, they're good. I mean, most of the people have messed with my head and scared me in life have been people that are black. You can't give that type of opening to people like that. You gotta question yourself. So I put that out there. Most people don't like this type of talk because what people like to think, I think, is that what people like to think is they want a cheat sheet to know who to trust. And I think that's really the kicker. And that's, to me, is current events. People want a cheat sheet. So if I come to you and say, I believe in democracy, you say, okay, you're good. Here's your card. You go through. If I come to you and say, I believe in capitalism, or I believe in this, oh, here's your card. You're good. You see, people want a cheat sheet to know who is right. They don't want to analyze people for who they are individually. They want to say, if you belong to this church, you're the remnant. And so all I have to do is say, oh, I'm a member of the church. And then somebody says, oh, you're the remnant, you're righteous, come on in, you're good. It's a cheat sheet. And this is what we have as human beings, because we don't want to do our homework. We don't want to accept the fact that, no, each person in your life, each organization, each entity, business has to be taken on its own account. You have to watch people. I move on. So I want to go to the next article here, which is my main topic. And the main thing I want to talk about, I came to talk about, I just wanted to throw this out there to you. As that thing out there is a warning. I can't overemphasize how important that is. You just can't assume that because somebody have big muscles, they are brave. That's a cheat sheet. And you can't assume because somebody looks, skinny and weak that they're not brave. Life don't work like that. You don't know what's going on in people's mind. Somebody could look very honorable, upright. It could mean something a lot of time. It don't mean anything. You got to take people when you know them, you deal with them. So be careful of that. And that's where I see it messing up society, and it's killing a whole bunch of people because they believe, because this person is a card carrying, flag waving person, this person is a true patriot. I'm like, look at the nonsense. This is some silly thinking. I've known people who wrap themselves in a flag and you couldn't trust them for one day because they're axe murderers. They want to kill everybody around them. A bunch of crazies. So notice here, I want to go now to my main topic, which is dangers of GMO and amalgamation. Dangers of GMO and amalgamation. Now, I've covered this in the past. A few years ago, probably 2016. So it's not one of those topics that I think it's a big topic, but it's just very straightforward to me. And I have two articles and then some text and quotes from Ellen G. White that I want to read. And notice here in Ecclesiastes 7 verse 29, Ecclesiastes 7 verse 29 says, Lo, this only have I found, that God had made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Many inventions. Now here's the thing that is critical to me before I read these two articles and read some of these things I want to read with you to share. Probably nothing here you've not heard before, but I want to layer it with what I've thought about and learned over the years. That when you think about, God made man upright and God made man good. Now the devil is such a lie, because what the devil have taught the Western world is that they evolve and that they're coming out of the cave and from a primordial soup and from a place of unintelligence to intelligence. And why they do this is because they say, look, we invent stuff. I'm talking to you over the air. So based upon that, we're going from worse to better, from unintelligent to intelligence. We're going from lack of development to civilized. And so modernly we are civilized, and people living 200 years ago, they were uncivilized. And this is civilization. So with that assumption, with that teaching, there's a lot of conclusion that come out of that. That means back in the past, people were hunter-gatherers. Now we're not hunter-gatherers. Now we have very far-reaching technology. Back in the past, people walked and they were bent over like chimpanzees or something like that. Now we walk upright. And notice it says God had made all things upright. But then you come to the Bible. The Bible is, what is the beauty about the Bible? The Bible goes totally opposite to that. And remember, the Bible is written before these modern people, including you and I. We're modern, so to speak. We are the latest brand of humanity. The Bible teaches us different. The Bible teaches that we're going from stronger to weaker, from close to the Creator to close to the devil or to failure. We're going from, per se, not evolution, but we're in a process of devolution. We're devolving. We're going down, not up. And this is the process. The history Bible teaches that the history of the world was passed on orally. People had massive memory capacity, better memory usage and capacity of their brain. Now, everything that we do has to be recorded audibly or written on paper. And so because now I can record and on basically silicon disk, they say we have improved and we're doing better than people who were able to take massive amount of information and keep it in their memory and pass it on. They're saying we have improved. We have gone, when you read the Bible describe in the whole Old Testament Bible almost talk as if there's hardly no disease. New Testament, you start to see some genetic disease, and then in our modern time we have lifestyle disease. They say that we have gotten better with our lifestyle diseases and genetical diseases, while the Bible teaches a different picture. That 6,000 years ago or so, life was people were physically larger, physically stronger, better memory, better ability to even starve off hunger. Moses fast 40 days and 40 nights. Jesus fast 40 days and 40 nights. Some people can't miss a meal as they go berserk in our modern time. So there's so much we can talk about. So a lot of what we're dealing with is issues that I understand that we have in genetical failings. The kids are being, when you have a mother that after the third child comes out disabled, and she's like, I need to either stop getting pregnant or I need to start aborting. That's part of the discussion that I'm going to have in the next few minutes. Part of the problem is that people are coming up with a lot of genetic damage out of straight from the womb. Things just not working right, or they're basically, it's coming out like it's an alien, not even like it's a child. And so all of this is pushing science to say, can we fix some of this genetic damage that is happening to birth? Yet while that is happening, you have a part of the society. Notice older people now, the Bible describes people when they were old and they're ready to die. They pull their foot up in the bed and they die. Now we're talking about long-term nursing home care, people are curled up into a ball, almost literally. In nursing home, people it's like they're like fiber by the time they die because they just shrivel down, and the decrepitness is unreal. Yet, with all of this evidence, people say, "Oh no, we have gotten better," and all the depression because people's mind is a wreck is not just 1% of the society is schizophrenic. There's so much people with so many various different mental health disorder that is not just schizophrenic. But yet, so we have modern people, civilized people, especially in the Western world, because they're the most civilized in our society, are telling us that they are the end product of evolution and they're the best humans that ever walked the face of the planet. They're the healthiest, the end product of evolution, and they're the greatest. Why? Because they're able to make a car or a supercar. I don't believe this. I don't see this. This doesn't make no sense to me. I don't know how it makes sense to them. And as I say, if you think about the Western world, and you think about are they the end product of evolution, this is total ridiculous. I can't see this. Are they the most advanced human beings that ever walked the face of the planet? I've been looking for this evidence and I can't see it. And I guess I myself is probably a chimp to them because I can't see it. So God has made all things beautiful. So here are two articles now I'm going to share with you of where they're at right now, what they're tinkering with to try to fix, because they're trying to fix the genetic damage, although they're telling us, oh, and this is what they will say. They will say, because we have the ability to fix the genetic damage that is in human beings, that tell you that we're more advanced than people living in the time of Moses, more advanced than people living in the time of Noah, more advanced than people living in the time of Jesus. This is basically the premise of their teaching, because they can go in and edit the genes and make like a GMO tomato or GMO whatever that tells you that they're more advanced. And yet you go to those same people and say, do you understand how the pyramids were made? Can you duplicate that? They said, no, we don't. That technology is lost. So then why do you think you're more intelligent than the Egyptian? And we'll leave it at that. So notice here, Chinese scientists insert human brain gene into monkey, spark ethical debate. This is taken from NBC News, and this is recently happened. When scientists in China added human gene to monkeys, they were hoping to gain a better understanding of how human brains develop. In the process, they triggered an ethical debate over research that some say blurred the line between human and animals. The scientists behind this new research, which was published March 27th in the journal National Science Review, say genetically altered monkeys can advance our understanding of brain development, which could lead to new treatments for autism and other developmental disorders. So notice here, as I say, if you look at history, look at any history books, before the time of Christ, the concept of genetical damage is almost never mentioned in the Bible or in history. Then we come to a point it started to seem to be a blossoming of it about 2,000 years ago. In our time now, we have it where more and more kids are either being diagnosed or born with genetical or developmental problems. This is the trouble in the mind. What's happening to us as civilized people? But critics of the research, continue the article, include one scientist who contribute to it have called foul, arguing that scientific gains don't justify the creation of monkeys that could wind up with more human-like intelligence. My personal opinion, I pause here again, think about it. If we say we evolved from monkeys, then from an evolutionary point of view, that kind of makes sense then, right? You know, you just want to see, you want to bridge the gap, just see halfway between, just let the monkeys still be monkey, but give him a point where he start upright and use tools, give him a human brain. Continue here. My personal opinion is now that from an ethical point of view, such research should actually not be done. Martin Steiner, a computer scientist at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who was member of the team of scientists behind the research, told NBC News. Still, others say that ethical pitfalls and all genetically altered monkeys are our best hope for unblocking the secret of the human brain and its disorders. The conflict illustrates what Jessica Mahey, director of the primate behavior behavior and ecology program at Central Washington University in Ellensburg, called the ethical quagmire of animal testing. The research grew out of a simple question: how does our DNA lay out the blueprint for humans' powerful brain? Specifically, the scientists based at the Chinese Academy of Science in Kunming Institute of Zoology wanted to understand the role of the MCPH1 gene in human brain development. Babies with malfunctioning copies of the gene are often born with unusually small heads, a condition known as microcephaly. And since the human and monkey version of the MCP1 are slightly different, scientists think the genes may be partly responsible for human high intelligence. In the study, the scientists added the human version of MCPH1 to 11 embryos that would become rhesus macaws, dirty blonde monkey that shares about 93% of their DNA with humans. The so-called transgenic embryo were then implanted into the womb of female monkeys. 2 embryos were lost to miscarriage. 3 more were euthanized before birth so that scientists could examine their brain. Of the 6 monkeys that were born, 1 died about 2 months in. The other 5 were given memory tests and had their brains imaged in an MRI machine at regular intervals. The transgenic monkey behaved much like their unaltered counterparts, and their brains were roughly the same size, but their brain cells took longer to develop compared to those of the unaltered monkeys, a sign that the researchers interpret as neoteny, the super slow maturation of human brains that is thought to be linked to our species' high intelligence. They also outperformed the unaltered monkey on the memory test and had quicker reaction time. The result led some to wonder whether the MCPH1 monkey were one step closer to something like consciousness. Steiner said he worried that the transgenic monkey could be shunned by their unaltered counterparts, though he acknowledged that he didn't observe the animals and had no expertise in genetic or bioethics. Other experts echoed Steiner's concern. I don't think all animal-human transgenic hybrid experiments are unethical, Arthur Kaplan, a bioethicist of the NYU School of Medicine, said in an email. Inserting human genes into monkeys' brain is a different matter. Like Steiner, Kaplan felt that the study ran the risk of creating something not human but not a monkey. But Megan Dennis, a biochemist and geneticist at the University of California, Davis, said the insertion of a human gene probably wasn't enough to give the monkey anything resembling self-awareness. Rhesus monkeys are far enough evolutionary from human that a few addition of genes will not create a Planet of the Apes scenario, she said, referring to the fear that the transgenic monkey could be self-aware and start acting like monkeys in the UN or anywhere else. It didn't say that. I'm just saying it could be self-aware and start taking over us. Rhesus monkeys, continue the article, and other world monkeys and old world monkeys can be useful models of studying the human brain. Their brain resembles human brains much more closely than those of other common research animals, such as mice. And with 25 million years of evolution separating them from humans, they are considered less ethically dicey to use in experiments than chimpanzees and other great apes, which share with human all but a few percentage point of their genome. Rhesus macaws are one of the best animals model for studying brain development and evolution, and have the best translation value of improving human health. Dr. Chan, researcher at Emory University. In 2015, the National Institute of Health announced it would no longer support biomedical research on chimpanzee. Research on great apes is either banned or restricted in many places, including nations in the European Union. In the United States, the National Institute of Health fund both monkey research and research involving the introduction of human genes into animal. NIH gave 247 grants supporting non-human primate research in 2017. Science magazine reported still the research is often cheaper and more convenient in China than in US, making the country a hotbed for genetics research on monkeys. Another scientist involved in the new study, Bing Su of Kunming Institute of Zoology, said in an email that the Institute Ethics Board had approved the study and that the monkeys were handled in accordance with the international standard. He added that apart from the pace of their brain development, the transgenic monkey weren't much different from their unaltered counterparts. In theory, and in reality, there is no humanness observed in this monkey. As for misgiving of the co-author, Su and Steiner never expressed any concern to him personally, and that when told that their research had been published, Steiner emailed back, "Congrats on the to the whole team," with no exclamation. With two exclamation marks, Su said. For his part, Steiner said he didn't make up his mind on the ethics of the experiment until later. "This is the first time where I regret sending out such an congratulatory email," he wrote, and asked about the exchange. The 5 monkeys are reported to be in good health. So notice what I said there about this concept of evolution. And you could hear it in the article. And if you have time, you can go search it on NBCnews.com. And the article again is "Chinese Scientists Insert Human Brains Genes into Monkey, Spark Ethical Debate." So if you remember in the beginning I said, and that's the interesting thing, if I sometimes say something, somebody might say, "Well, you're saying it, I don't like it, I prefer somebody to say it." But I say it because I'm trying to be as impartial as I can. And when you look at this type of research, the philosophy that pushes this research are probably 2 or 3 pronged. I'll say 2 of the ideas I really believe pushing this research is, number 1, the concept that we're evolved and we're going from worse to better. And so that's the process. That's one thing. And then secondarily, the reality that there's so much genetical damage and weakness within us, within ourselves, from even birth. And then later on for lifestyle disease. And so much of this is the scientists, I believe, own personal sufferings and the suffering of those around them. So I don't believe this is just financial based. In other words, people are doing this just because they want to make money. I really believe some of this is happening because it's just the reality. There's a lot of genetical problems that are happening amongst us. And so you want to fix it. And if you assume from day one that the genetical problem is something that's going on that you can just correct and do a little programming here, programming there, and fix, then of course you're going to do that. Because that's your world philosophy. Your world philosophy is that you evolve. You came from the primordial soup, from nothing to something. So I throw that out there. So, if I say it, evolution is such a big thing. People are like, why you keep saying that? Because literally that's what the scientists are saying. To me, that's what I was taught when I was in school doing biology. That it's all about evolution. And that, we need to fix these problems. So here I'm going to read a second article, see if I can get through this one fast so I can get to some of the other points I want to make as we look at the dangers of GMO amalgamation. Notice Chinese gene editing twin may face risk of early death. And so this article is connected. Probably I should have pulled that article, but for the sake of time, I wouldn't. But I'll tell you real quickly. So there's a scientist that went ahead, and there's some of it's going to come out in the article, but I'll say this to you so you can follow me as I read this new one here. So this scientist, or these scientists, had basically genetically altered a twin in China. A lot of this is going on in China. And So this had made headline news a few months back. So now this is brand new here. This is this week, this article. And so just want to share this to you now because of questions came up in big way. Many people, there was an outcry against the scientists who basically, I think it's the first scientist to manipulate the genes of two children. So now this is not research on chimps and on monkeys. These are now they start to mess with children now. So here we go. This is from Associated Press here, and it's like people with a DNA mutation that reduce their chance of HIV infections may die sooner, according to study that suggests tinkering with a gene to try to fix one problem may cause others. The study authors cited the case of the Chinese researcher who tried to produce two mutations in twin girls before birth to reduce their risk of HIV. His work, which produced the first gene-edited babies, was widely condemned as unethical and risky, and the newspaper illustrated one reason for concern. You should consider all the effects of mutation you induced, says Rasmus Nielsen of the University of California, Berkeley, senior author of the paper released Monday by the journal Nature Medicine. Nielsen acknowledged that his results cannot be applied directly to the two girls in China. For one thing, his study focused on a sample of people in the United Kingdom who may have different genetic backgrounds than the Chinese girls. In addition, the people he studied had inherited a specific mutation. The Chinese scientists tried to create the same mutation but failed. The girls now carry different alterations in the same genes. The genes is called CCR5, which is working normally. When it is working normally, it lets certain cells of the immune system display a protein on their surface. HIV has co-opted that protein to use as a doorway to infect those cells. The mutation prevents that protein from appearing, and it sharply reduces the risk of HIV infection. Past studies have suggested that carrying that mutation has some drawbacks, including heightened risk of death from flu. Nielsen and Xingzhu also at UC Berkeley studied data on about 400,000 people who signed up between 2006 and 2010 for the UK Biobank, which collected extensive information on them and is following their health. They compare people who carry the mutation in both copies of their CCR5 gene to those who carry it in just one copy or neither, and looked for death records through February 2016. About 4,000 participants carried a mutation in both copies, of whom 151 were dead. Analysis focused on deaths between ages 41 and 76. The study found that the participants with the mutation in both copies had a death rate of about 20% than that of others. A second analysis showed that at the time participants signed up for the data bank, when their average age was about 57, there were fewer people with the mutation in both copies of the genes than one would expect. That's another sign of higher rates of death or higher death rate. The researchers were unable to get information on the cause of death, so they had no firm explanation for the difference in mortality, Nielsen said, but the heightened risk of death from flu may have played an important role, he said. He also said the size of the difference would probably differ in other groups of people. Dr. Philip Murphy, an immunologist at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in Bethesda, Maryland, said the work provided the first peek at the mutation effects on mortality from all causes over a wide swath of lifespan. That's a big deal. And I'll read it again because that's important. Sometimes I'm just going through the ream of information, but I want you to pick up what's important as I picked it up earlier when I read it, or earlier in the week when I read it. So notice here that this person here, looking at the information, saying that from Maryland, this person from Maryland said that the work provided the first peek at the mutation's effect on mortality from all causes over a wide swath of the lifespan. That's a big deal. And so I'm repeating, that's a big deal. So if you have the mutation, he's saying that you're dying from all kind of causes, a whole bunch of causes over your lifespan, over the lifespan of the people being researched. Nisa said the study does not apply to a form of genes therapy that differs from what the Chinese researchers did. Some scientists have been inactivating CCR5 in blood cells of people affected with HIV to help keep the virus under control. In that situation, having a disabled genes is probably an advantage. James Riley, who studied that strategy at the University of Pennsylvania, agreed. Riley said his work affects only a tiny fraction of blood cells, while people in Nisa's study with the high rates death rate had CCR5 shut off in every cell of their body. Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the NIAID, said that the new study did not apply broadly to gene editing experiments underway now. Researchers are mainly focused on replacing a defective gene with a working one or eliminating a harmful one. In contrast, the people in Nisa's study were living without a normal working version of a gene, a condition the Chinese researchers sought to produce. Fauci said that the work is more a lesson that genetic protection against one thing can raise vulnerability to something else. Okay, so those are the articles. So here we go again. And this is, to me, I see the two things are connected. When you assume somebody could be doing life-altering, life-changing research, all this has to be looked upon. And you have to look up in it and question all of this. Somebody would think, well, you can't question it because we don't know exactly what they're doing. Well, we have history for this. We have Bible for this, and we have sense, as I say, up in the cranium. So when you look at this type of stuff, remember, if you start off with a premise, and the premise is that we're evolving and that we're getting better, we're going from basically cave to superior beings, and that soon we're going to get better, then there goes part of your problem. That to me is a bigger part of the problem. And so it's hard to fix the problem because what you're doing now, it's like the same concept with so many other things in drugs. You never try to find a cause and fix the cause. You're trying to make the system become resistant without changing lifestyle. So imagine you have a person who having a problem with diabetes, and you go in and you make a genetical change to their body so that they're not affected. But what the scientists find out is that when you make one change, that change affects something else. Hence, you create a new problem. And instead of saying, well, you can't eat that deep fried food anymore, people don't want to hear that. People want to say, I want to eat my deep fried food and I want to be healthy. Doctor, go inside of me and change something. The doctor goes inside and make one change, and that change create a new problem. Now we have a new issue on our hand that we never seen before because we never know what that gene's fully is doing and all the various different biochemical reaction. And this can be done through the doctor going and change the genes, or this can be done with lifestyle or drugs and other things that change the body. So that's important to note that this is not a minor issue here. When you change one thing, they do not know at this point, this is all experiment, what will be the knock-on effect. Now, when I read something like this, the first thing I always think about, and this was pointed out quite a few years back, that if you look at even the skeletal remains of the dinosaur, you can see that something was wrong with them because they don't form the normal proportions of animals that are alive today. All of them look weird and sickly. That's very important to note. Animals have a certain proportion and certain symmetry to them in our modern times, what we see with our eyes. that those animals look like some type of amalgamation, which is why my topic is the dangers of GMO and amalgamation. Whether it be genetically engineered food, or genetically engineered animals, or genetically engineered human beings. And now, for the first time this year, we can say that now we have confirmation. This is no longer now some things that are being floated around as conspiracy. The Chinese are now genetically engineering human beings. This is official. Go search and look at the twins. That was major headline news, so that's why I didn't get to cover it when it happened. But the Chinese are now genetically engineered people. So now it's not something that of speculation. I think when I covered this 2016, the last time, we just had confirmation of genetically engineering animals. Now we're doing it to human beings. So here goes the madness. And so this genetic engineer will create some two-headed monsters. And the reason why this is because we don't know to the level of what one gene fully does and what would be the result of it, especially when we do it in the womb, and what exactly is going to come out and what's going to develop. And as I say, when you think about some of what the old myths and what they were doing, like with the story of Medusa and all those things, those stories, I believe they're absolutely true. What they were doing then was they were mixing animals and humans, and probably animals and insects, and insects and animals, and they were coming up with weird results. And the assumption that modern people make is that people who live thousands of years ago didn't have the brain intelligence to be able to do anything like what we're doing today. But the problem is archaeological digs and historical evidence has shown that they were quite advanced. I mean, recently I was watching something where they have shown that battery technology has been around from over 3,000 years ago. This is not new technology. This is something that we have probably made more advanced, but the technology was there. A lot of technology was there when it comes on to mapping the skies, to understand the movements of the stars and the moon and understand how they affect the earth, and a lot of strange and powerful technology. I believe in, I can't remember the modern name for it, but levitation and stuff like that. I believe that was something that they understood, because remember, the earth levitates. So that any technology that God does to a certain limit, you can figure it out to a certain limit. There's limits that God put in this. So I believe, I can't remember the name of the modern science where you can see something almost seemingly levitating, and because of certain magnetism and stuff like that. Remember, the earth is a nuclear core with a lot of metals and stuff like that. We don't know how God does it, but it's real. So I'm gonna read a statement here for you. And this statement is taken from the book First Spirit of Prophecy, page 69. This is a statement by Ellen G. White written over 100 years ago. It says, "But if there was one sin above another, which called for the destruction of the race by the flood," so this is talking about what happened in the time of Noah, "it was the base crime of amalgamation." Today we'll call it genetical editing or engineering, of the amalgamation of man and beast, which defaced the image of God and caused confusion everywhere. God purposed to destroy by a flood that powerful long-lived race that had corrupted their ways before him. He would not suffer them to live out their days of their natural life, which would be hundreds of years. And I'll pause there. I'll stop right there. So if you notice here, she says that back then, the base crime, one of the crime that was above all other crimes, was this crime of gene editing. As I said, a few years ago when I covered this, they were close. They were taking the human gene and putting it into the animal. Now they start to edit the human beings. The Chinese basically have jumped the shark on that one, and they basically say, look, we're gonna just go straight in and click, but we're going to start manipulating the genes. What happened, notice she says there, when this happened, this crime of blending human beings with animals, we are blending the animals now with human beings. No, we're taking the genes of the human beings and putting it in animals. We're now going to start taking the genes of the animals and putting in human beings. Now notice here, this thing caused confusion everywhere. Because again, if you saw a person with, say, 5 snakes on their head instead of having hair, say some scientists back then say, and I'm looking at my time, unreal. Anyhow, so some scientists say, instead of hair growing out of the follicles, let a snake grow out of the follicles. And you saw that, I'll be terrified. That would be confusing. And you would know. Imagine you walk up to somebody and it's a beautiful, handsome, just say a guy. I choose a guy instead. A handsome-looking guy. And you're talking to the guy, you realize the guy has the brain of a horse. And you just start gallop. Not even, he doesn't have the half horse, half man. You know the story of whatever that myth is. He has a brain of a horse. That's it. Just his brain. That's all. That would be confusing. Somebody would take that for their lawful wedding husband. Anyhow, so this is the type of thing that was said. Now, somebody, I know probably 100 years ago, she wrote this, and somebody read that and thinking, she crazy. What's she talking about? Hey, look, we're in the time where it is now we're taking human organs or human genes and put it into animals, and we're splicing the genes of human beings and checking them. I give it a little bit longer, and what we'll know will come right back to this time where what we're going to do, what the science are going to do, is going to literally now, if they make this one step where they don't start to mess with the genes of little babies, little kids, little fetus, they're going to start now going in and putting the animal genes right into the human being. Because what if you could have the genes of a chimp, which is, I think, 5 or 8 times stronger than human beings? What if you could get the genes of that chimp, the muscle genes of the chimp, and put that chimp gene into human beings so they could be strong? They could be like 5 times stronger than human beings. You don't even need robots. Come on. This is, I think, where we're going. And as I say, I read that statement. It troubled the mind of many. It don't trouble my mind. I'm just like, it totally makes sense to me. Because remember, if you study biology, you'll find out real quickly that the scientists or the professor talking to you really believe that we evolve and believe that evolution can be tinkered with, and we can accelerate the process, and we can come up with designer people that are physically stronger, healthier. They don't believe in natural health. They don't believe in herbs, and they don't believe in lifestyle practices to overturn the genetic damages or fix the body. They just believe that what you do, you just go in there and alter stuff. They believe this. So this is coming. And so I believe absolutely what I just read here. From I read it, I was like, yeah, I heard him talk. For years ago, I saw this and it's coming. Notice here the Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 24, verse 37 and through 39, it says, but as the days of Noah were, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. That statement, the more I look at what the scientists are doing, that statement tell me that before this is all finished, the excitement is going to be palpable, because now we start to splice into the little babies, and those babies are going to grow up. It's going to be amazing to see what's coming. Also, we're engineering the food. Many of the foods that we eat are not real food anymore. They're engineered with insect genes, animal genes, other plant genes, and these things are going to create weirder, wonderful disease. They already are. A lot of things that you see going on with the people, they have insects inside of them. Trust me. Go do your research. As it was in the day of Noah, so shall it be in our days. We don't understand how profound that verse is. That we're going to see things that are going to blow your mind. Remember, it's not the frogs that they're messing up with. They're messing with the human beings. The men are not men anymore. They don't know if they're men or women. Pure confusion is sowing. And I believe this has had to do with gene altering the food, all this type of stuff. None of this is conspiracy theory, provable science. This is what they're doing. The only difference is they believe what they're doing. So, as the day of Noah were, they were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving to marry. We see all of them. And not know until the flood came and take them all away. I'm going to tell you, this is to people, this is excitement. We're going to alter the genes, and we're going to have half man and half animals. And somebody will say, that sounds crazy. I'm going to tell you, you do your research, you'll see that more is yet to come. We'll cover more in the future. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank you again for your word that give us foreknowledge, insight, tell us ahead of time what's coming. I believe these things, dear Lord, and we believe that these things are going to get more. I pray, dear Lord, for wisdom that we might know, dear Lord, by inspiration, by clear study, what to eat and what not to eat, that we might avoid, dear Lord, these foods that you know, dear Father, is destroying men. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should do wisdom for living. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.